Hi, this is John from IMJG Education. Today we're going to work on the PTE Academic Listening Task, Highlight Correct Summary. This presentation will cover test instructions, test procedure, things you should know to become more test wise. We'll give you 3 examples to practice and then a conclusion. For self-autonomous learners, we have PTE textbooks. You can find them at Amazon or through our website at imjgeducation.com. You can follow MJG Education on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Tumblr. We'll be updating that constantly, as with our homepage. We specialize in tutorials for the time being, as our website is being developed. So tutorials in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. We also do lots of mock tests that include feedback, oral feedback, if we do them through Zoom, and of course you'll get feedback in a written form as well. We like to emphasize too that we're a Canadian company. You can save 35% if you're dealing with companies that charge you in US dollars. By all means, come back and check us out. We'll save you a fortune. Anyways, thank you very much and have a nice day wherever you are. These are the test instructions. You will hear a recording. Click on the paragraph summary that best recounts or summarizes the recording. The test procedure is as follows. Start by focusing on the audio status and be ready to start. The recording is going to begin after 10 seconds. Make sure you skim your options quickly. There'll be 3 to 5 options there. Now, when the recording starts, be very critical of yourself to listen for that very first sentence, the topic sentence. It's most important because it's going to give you the gist of what the paragraph is about. From that point on, you can take notes, focus on your keywords, try to take notes, and do not read the answers on the computer screen while listening. This is the biggest problem. A lot of people just stare at the answers and they don't take any notes, and then hopefully they hope to get the right answer. That's not the way to do it. Take notes, because when you go back to read the answer responses again, it's a lot easier to eliminate incorrect options and or eliminate options that are not mentioned. And that's where your notes are really helpful. So be careful, concentrate on that first sentence, take notes, and then eliminate to get your correct answer at the end. Things you should know about this task to make you more test-wise. Remember, when you get a summary is a big reduction of a paragraph or even an essay. So if you get an answer response that gives a summary that's too specific, and what I mean, if they put an example in that summary option, don't choose it, it's going to be wrong. You only have 2 or 3 of these on the test, and the recordings are 30 to 90 seconds long. You're going to have a choice, as I mentioned before, between 3 and 5 paragraph summaries each. The scoring, you either get it right or wrong, so it's 1 mark or 0. This is not a big score on the listening part, so when you get to the answer options, you can usually eliminate. They don't make it too difficult. There's usually 1 obvious answer. Now, the thing you can do to help yourself the most is think of it as a topic sentence. This summary response would be like a topic sentence for the entire paragraph or essay. Think of it that way, and that's usually the best way to go about it to get the right answer. For the following examples, you'll have 10 seconds to skim the possible answers. Then the audio will begin on the following slide. With the conclusion of the audio, you'll only have 20 seconds before the answer slide is presented. This process will then repeat twice. Stop the video, of course, if you wish.
The second half of the last century was completely defined by a technological revolution, the software revolution. The ability to program electrons on a material called silicon made possible technologies, companies, and industries that were at one point unimaginable to many of us, but which have now fundamentally changed the way the world works. The first half of this century, though, is going to be transformed by a new software revolution, the living software revolution. And this will be powered by the ability to program biochemistry on a material called biology. And doing so will enable us to harness the properties of biology to generate new kinds of therapies, to repair damaged tissue, to reprogram faulty cells, or even build programmable operating systems out of biochemistry. The second half of the last century was completely defined by a technological revolution, the software revolution. The ability to program electrons on a material called silicon made possible technologies, companies, and industries that were at one point unimaginable to many of us, but which have now fundamentally changed the way the world works. The first half of this century, though, is going to be transformed by a new software revolution, the living software revolution. And this will be powered by the ability to program biochemistry on a material called biology. And doing so will enable us to harness the properties of biology to generate new kinds of therapies, to repair damaged tissue, to reprogram faulty cells, or even build programmable operating systems out of biochemistry.
But as a fine art photographer, I somehow felt that it wouldn't catch on out there, that there would be a problem with trying to make this as a fine art career, and I kept being sucked into this genre of the calendar picture or something of that nature, and I couldn't get away from it. So I started to think of how can I rethink the landscape. So I decided to rethink the landscape as the landscape that we've transformed. I had a bit of an epiphany being lost in Pennsylvania, and I took a left turn trying to get back to the highway, and I ended up in a town called Frackville. And I got out of the car and I stood up, and it was a coal mining town, and I did a 360 turnaround, and that became one of the most surreal landscapes I'd ever seen, totally transformed by man. And that got me to go out and look at the largest industrial incursions in the landscape that I could find.
That's the interesting thing about work stress. We don't really experience much of it at work. We're too busy. We experience it outside of work, when we're commuting, when we're home, when we're trying to rejuvenate. It is important to recover in our spare time, to de-stress and do things we enjoy. And the biggest obstruction we face in that regard is ruminating. Because each time we do it, we're actually activating our stress response. Now, to ruminate means to chew over. It does not work for humans, because what we chew over are the upsetting things, the distressing things, and we do it in ways that are entirely unproductive. It's the hours we spend obsessing about tasks we didn't complete, or stewing about tensions with a colleague, or anxiously worrying about the future, or second-guessing decisions we've made. Now, there's a lot of research on how we think about work when we're not at work, and the findings are quite alarming. Ruminating about work, replaying the same thoughts and worries over and over again, significantly disrupts our ability to recover and recharge in the off hours. The more we ruminate about work when we're home, the more likely we are to experience sleep disturbances.
In conclusion, be prepared for that first sentence when the audio starts, the topic sentence. Try to understand the gist of what's going to be talked about. Take notes and listen for key words, and then eliminate options first, then select the correct summary.